Hello, and welcome back to my messy garage, because I bought a Jenco Vibraphone. I have never played a mallet instrument in my life, so this will be a fun little excursion from the usual instruments. I found this on Facebook Marketplace for a pretty reasonable price in terms of what these Jenco Vibraphones go for, but it didn't have a working motor, so I was able to get it down a little bit in hopes that might save me some money on any motor repair. But the rest of it works great. The damper bar felt seems to be in pretty good condition. It's dampening pretty good. Though the cord that runs all of the resonating bars up and it keeps them up. There's no spacers in between these metal pieces and the bar. And it seems some of these bars are rubbing up against the metal piece, and it's dampening the resonance it normally has. So I'm going to see if I can find some rubber grommets or inserts that I can put between those to kind of isolate it a little more. The sustain pedal does seem to work pretty good. And overall, for a non-mallet player, I think it sounds pretty great. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the motor. It seems it was hastily put together, just putting two wires twisted up with some electrical tape. Hopefully that's the issue with it, or else I'm going to be spending a lot more money on this project. Okay, well, you guys wanted me to record more during the repair, so this is what you get. You get a two-prong 1970s lamp cable with a home wall light switch hooked up to a Bodine Electric Company motor. The motor does not have its bars or its bands that connect it to the two vibe resonator bars, so I'll have to buy some of those. But from what I see, it's a pretty shitty job in terms of electronics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wheel this over to my soldering iron, and we're going to see if the connection itself is the issue with the motor, which hopefully it is. So looking at the motor mechanism here, first thing I want to do is I want to get the motor off of the vibraphone itself. So we have 4 screws there, and we also have 4 screws under that are mounting it to the actual base of the vibraphone. Of course, these are in places that are hard to reach and hard to fit a screwdriver in, so I'm going to end up going with the 2 side ones over here, or the 4. And hopefully I'll be able to get out the motor itself and just be able to dust it off a little bit. I mean, you could see all of that crap back there. Maybe that'll get some of the gunk off. Yowee. So taking a look at our electronics a little closer up, our wall switch does seem to be still pretty congruent in where it should be. Though we do have a soldered lead on this end, yet these two were just twist tied together. So I'm gonna go reflow these, and hopefully it's nothing that is too hard to fix. And today I will be using my wonderful quad hands helping hands tool to get these nice and situated together instead of having to hold them together with my fingers and pray the soldering tip doesn't hit my finger. So now we do have continuity between both of these wires, which means theoretically it should turn on. Will it? Hopefully. Here goes nothing. We have our rubber gloves on, and nothing. Cool. And still nothing. Cool. Okay, maybe it's not wired right. Maybe? So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take apart the switch from the equation entirely. I'm just going to wire the plug directly into the motor, and I'm going to use my Variac machine to slowly give it voltage so I don't suddenly blow up anything. If it is in fact the switch, that's a great news. If not, then I'm going to have to take it apart. We're going to have to figure out if the coil itself is split from the gearing mechanism, I believe. So we'll see. So I have the Variac machine out because instead of plugging it straight into the 110 volt wall outlet, I figured I should probably give it a little bit of juice one at a time with the Variac machine, so it just get a full 110 right off the bat. This also kind of gives me a little bit of peace of mind since I am wiring this motor straight into the plug. So right now we're at about 30 volts. We're getting nothing at 50 volts. Does feel a little warm. Is that smoke? So I tried putting some 3-in-1 machine oil into the 2 ports and had no luck. So I'm gonna take it apart and hopefully try putting some grease in there because this guy is all seized up. That is not good. Look at that. That is crazy. So we have some issues. The gear, the reduction gear, I believe it is, in this end of the motor was pretty stripped. I'll show you a photo in the corner. I'm not too sure what I can do. That conveniently enough is the place that does not move in the shaft. Everything else seems to be moving fine in the motor. So I'm kind of at a dead end here. I looked up the model number of the motor, and there are 3 on eBay, 1 that doesn't work and 2 that do. The 1 is in the UK, so it has 230 instead of 110 volts. I'm gonna have to figure out if I'm gonna go through with that. I'm gonna test it one last time since I literally had it all apart. Maybe something will change, but I doubt it. So here we have it, the new Bodine motor. I am going to hook up the leads and give it a first test run. I did put some machine oil in the ports, so hopefully that kind of pre-runs it. Okay, so here is the big test. Oh yeah. Works great. That's supposed to be turning that slow? Look at how slow it's turning. Okay, I'm just putting some of the heat shrink on our ends, and then I'm going to mount it back in the vibraphone. Okay, so we have the motor back in. We have our belt through both of the resonating bar movie thingies, and then I have it on the middle rung right there. So we're gonna plug it in and see what's happening. So here we have the motor going. But it's very, very slow, as you can see. I mean, and it's not the you know, the system, it's just the motor, and the pulley is moving so slow. So I'm not too sure to do about that. This right here is the sound of 2.5 hours of work and fuckery. Please pardon what I may be looking like right now. I just spent 3.5 hours leaning over this bench. So, here's the full rundown. I didn't record through this because it was very frustrating. I got the new motor in, and the problem is that the model number and everything was the same, but the RPMs were two rotations per minute versus 80 on the one that I came with. I don't know how a model number can be the same, yet that difference is there, but that was our issue. So I had to figure out how to get the old motor working or somehow fit the old motor's gearing system onto the new working motor. Now, I did have some other ideas. I thought maybe I could overload the motor a little bit, give it a little more voltage, give it a little more pep, but the difference would have been minimal at best, and it probably would have been dangerous. So I tried putting the old motor's gearing system, the fast gearing system, on the new motor that works. Well, gears are different and they didn't fit. So I then went back to the old motor. I thought, maybe there's some way I can make this work. And for a second there was. I plugged it in and it was humming, it was whizzing. And it didn't do that before. So I unplugged it, I went, let's try it. Put the gearing in, nothing. So I did end up testing it with the gearing out, and the cooling fan and that centrifuge gear screw system was spinning and fast. So it was definitely something with the gears. Upon opening up the gear, its head, the part that was stripped, that had a few of those teeth missing, was totally seized. And I was told on the internet that it was supposed to be non-movable, but I don't think that was true because I sprayed some Croil penetrant oil in there and it cleaned up in seconds. Totally movable with my fingers compared to a monkey wrench. So after that was done, I was hopeful again with a new free motor. Maybe I could put it back in the old motor and have it spin. Well, now the old motor wasn't getting any electricity. No hum, and that free centrifuge wheel was not spinning anymore. So now I'm digging through the old motor. I'm like, well, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. I have no clue. The old motor has not started again, and this is where I kind of just said, either I'm stopping this or I'm breaking the old motor. Because, I mean, what's the point? Like, why not? What am I going to do? Reuse it? So, in the process of practically breaking the motor, I realized there is a part. This centrifuge I'm talking about is this muddy old gear at the top. It has threads, and that's what interacts with the top gearing to make the speeds. This red thing in the middle is our magnet. The motor works by creating a magnetic field, so it propels that, and then with the weight, because it's heavy, it spins. And then right here is your cooling fan. If that's not spinning, it's going to get very hot. Now this comes out, obviously, and for a second I thought, well, if it's the same model, couldn't I just swap this so that it fits the old gearing, the fast gearing, and then put it in the new working motor and run it like that? And then I got excited because I don't know why I didn't think of that. So I swapped them out, hot rodding it up. I put the old one in the new motor. I put the old fast gearing in the new motor as well. They fit together. I plug it in, and nothing. And I was like, well, great. It was buzzing, so it was getting power, but no movement. until I gave the cooling wheel, flywheel, a little bit of a nudge. And then I went, and it started going. So I let it run for a little bit, but then it started to sound weird. And I didn't put too much grease in there, so I unplugged it, put some fresh motor oil in, 3-in-1, and then some lithium grease in the metal on metal components. And it started up right away. No need to push start, as you would say. So I'm feeling pretty happy, pretty great, pretty proud after that ordeal, because I was real low midway through. So now I'm going to put it back in, and I'm going to see if it can hold up to its actual job. Some of the veneer was peeling off here, so I went along and put some Tight Bond Quick and Thick in between it and clamped it down. We're gonna let this sit for 24 hours and hopefully that should be peachy clean. Okay, let's take off our clamps. Oh yeah, that's on there. So our corner is clamped, though I didn't clamp the bottom end and it gapped. There's a little bit of a gap. So now I'm gonna have to scrape out that dry glue and re-glue that. Okay, we're re-gluing the corner. It's looking a lot better now. So here is our front bracket, which has 2 screws going into this part of the wooden bar in the front. And where this screw comes in, the piece of wood has come out and split. Now, the problem is that they use some sort of glue to counteract this by just putting the glue in the joint and then putting the screw in, that it doesn't make a solid connection back in with the wood bottom itself, which is does not draw confidence from me. See, as hard as you push, it's just not, it's not fully there. Then it's cracked on the top. It's a little concerning considering there's only 4 screws that hold both these bars, but I think these brackets here might be aftermarket. I'm not sure. Alrighty, so let's see how that sits. There was a little bit of cracking, which is a little concerning, but it may have just been the finish on the wood. So here is the polished left leg, or the polished left side, versus the unpolished. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do the rest because this was definitely worth it. Now we're just gonna go about and polish the sustaining bar and give it some lubricant. The places that need it, metal to metal. Alrighty, so we have our massive vibraphone shipment. We have our new belt for our motor. We have our replacement motor. We have a new damper felt bar of felt. And then we have our replacement cord that we're going to use to restring all of the old bar cord with. I'm going to go ahead and start with the cord so I can take these bars off and then replace the damper felt without having to take off the damper rod. Okay, with the bars off, I am now going to peel off the old damper felt, which actually is coming off pretty easy until there. So that's the fun part. We're going to do that now and then adhere the new damper felt to it. Here's our old gross damper felt. And just take a look at the difference. Isn't that crazy? So, let's get that out of there. Next, we're going to take some 60 grit sandpaper and we're just going to sand down all that old glue, see how that comes out. So I got the most of the glue off, I should say. It is smooth now. There is a little bit of yellow still left, but it's rough enough, but not coarse, so that it's gonna stick nice. There is self-adhesive, I believe, on the back of this felt, but I'm also gonna put some contact cement on it just to really adhere it to the bar. Okay. So what I have decided to do now is a bit of polishing. I'm just going along really rough with the random orbital sander, just with a regular microfiber towel cloth in front of it, and then with some Flitz metal polish. Just kind of going over roughly to get them all relatively the same kind of sheen. I have to, do some fine tuning to a few that didn't get full satin sheen, but I'm gonna do the accidentals next. Next up, we're going to do our cord. So I did already measure out the cord for the accidentals. So I'm going to put the accidental bars back on where they should be. Then I'm going to thread the cord through them and then tie a knot, put the spring at the end, and then make it all tight.
Collared speaker. You have that towards up at that? I don't want anything. Oh, how did the new one? Did you try the new one? Okay. So I haven't used anything yet, but if it works out, that collared speaker is so freaking heavy. I don't want to look at it anywhere.
So what I'm doing now is just tying the knot so that these two can accurately intersect each other. I'm just kind of guessing on where to put the knot though to make it nice and taut, so bear with me. Let's see. I think that should be good, honestly. So I am so incredibly dumb. I was trying to move one of these metal pieces to the side with this hammer and chisel by smacking it and moving it over a little bit. That I chiseled the paracord and totally cut it in half. Thankfully, I only cut it right here. So I didn't cut off the ends of the other side of the paracord. So luckily, I believe I'll be able to just pull through this. Oh, yes. And I should just be able to tie up a new end. So I found a solution to the 4 resonating bars that aren't doing their job. Turns out they were actually flipped upside down. Or I should say, around, because this here is the front of these 4 bars, but this one is the back. And for some reason, it came with these 4 flipped over, because there's a marking on the bottom here that's on the top of all of these, but these 4 were at the bottom. But this was at the bottom, so I thought, well, I'm sure it's probably how it's supposed to be. No, it's not. So I'm gonna flip these around. I untied the cord. I'm just gonna pull it out a little bit on both sides, flip them around, and that should solve our issue. Okay, so now our bars are fixed. And the reason for that was because if you see this bar, it just goes straight. But this bar, it's curved. It's, it's on a diagonal. So the holes here are drilled diagonally, while these are drilled straight on. So the cable was bending and it was tightening up, so it wasn't resonating as well, and that's what caused the issue. And despite all the complaining, this really was a fun project. It only took less than a week to get done, and it was a really fun change of pace. A lot of the things that I'm so used to in pianos and guitar and stringed instruments really weren't applicable here, and it was really fun to get out of my comfort zone and to actually not fail. So I really hope you enjoyed this journey, and I know there's tons of Jenco vibraphones out there and other sorts of mallet instruments, and hopefully this can help you a little bit in your own journey or your own confidence in getting your own. Next up are the 2 audio clips. Obviously, I am no mallet player, so I hope you enjoy. Actually, a side note on the demos, I wasn't sure how to mic this. I first tried it under the resonators because I thought, well, air would go down, but it didn't really sound great, and it got a lot of the pedal noise in. So I did go up with an above figure 8. It's figure 8 because I'm using a ribbon microphone. I recently bought this and I want to test it out. It's the VR1 by SE Electronics. It's just pointed right down the middle of the keyboard, and I'll do a little bit of editing to get rid of some of the unwanted frequencies.